Hi, welcome to the first mini lesson on the periodic table. Just to start off, we'll start with a very quick review on what atoms are. So when we're talking about matter, and this means any kind of matter that you can possibly think of, and we decide to take a close look at it, and I mean a very close look at it, we're going to realize that all matter is made up of atoms, like this guy. An atom itself is made up of three different elementary particles. We have protons, which are found in the middle of the atom or in the nucleus, neutrons, which are also in the nucleus, and electrons, which zoom around the nucleus. Each of these different elementary particles have charges. Protons are positively charged, neutrons are neutral or without charge, and electrons are negatively charged. Now, just to kind of put you guys at ease, here's a really bad science joke to try and remember the charges of the elements. So we have an electron, a proton, and a neutron waiting for the bus. When the bus arrives, the electron hops on and is asked for a charge by the bus driver. The proton also gets on the bus and again is charged by the bus driver. But when the neutron tries to get on the bus driver stops him and says, "For you, no charge." Quick and easy way to remember that the neutron is actually neutral or without a charge. So to summarize this little tiny recap, matter is made up of atoms, and these atoms are made up of three different elementary particles. Protons, they're positive, and they're inside the nucleus. Neutrons, which are neutral, also inside the nucleus, kind of acting like a glue to hold everything together, and electrons, which are negative, zooming around the nucleus. Now, if you want to go further on in chemistry, you're going to realize that even these elementary particles are made up of something even smaller, but that is for another class. If you have any questions about those, please feel free to email me. So let's get back to the periodic table. This here is a periodic table. It might look really complex and very daunting, but in reality it is very well organized and simple to understand once you know how it's made. So what we're going to be doing today is trying to find out what information does the periodic table contain. So here are the key concepts that I would like you to remember after this mini lesson is done. First off, all the known elements are found in the periodic table. All 118 of them so far. Also very important, and probably most importantly in this mini lesson, is the idea that all your basic information on elements can be found within the periodic table. And this will include things like the number of protons, the number of neutrons. Keep in mind, right, both are within the nucleus. The number of electrons, and two other types of information you might not be familiar with. The number of electron shells, which are how many shells or orbits are those electrons actually placed on. And finally, the number of valence electrons, or how many electrons are on that last shell. And we're going to talk about the last two much more in detail. So here's a basic information cube that you can find in the simplest periodic table. We're going to start off with hydrogen because it's the first element. So let's take a look at what we can find. We have right here the first number, which is known as the atomic number. The atomic number will help us with the number of protons and the number of electrons. This is obviously assuming that your element is neutral. So the positive have to be equal to the negative in order for it to be neutral. In this wonderful drawing here, animation, we can clearly see that we have one proton here shown in red, which is in the center of my atom or the nucleus, and we have the one electron zooming around it. So this is what hydrogen would look like in a very crude animation. Let's try and find other information on this periodic table. Well, we do obviously have the symbol and we have the name, but we also have this other number down here. This is equal to the atomic mass. The atomic mass kind of obviously, is the mass of the atom, or if you're in higher chemistry, you'll find out it's equal to the molar mass as well. But it also can give us the amount of neutrons with a kind of simple mathematical equation. If I take the atomic mass minus the atomic number, and I round that answer up to the nearest unit, I'll find the number of neutrons. So we're going to write that down in this type of equation here. So the atomic mass minus the atomic number, rounded to the nearest number, unit, gives you the number of neutrons. So in this case, 1.01 minus 1, rounded to the nearest unit, gives 0. So hydrogen does not have any neutrons. Let's go back to that animation. Here we can clearly still see that one proton in the center, that one electron zooming around, but we can also see there are no other particles in the center because there are no neutrons. Hydrogen is the only element that does not have any neutrons. So far, we know how, using the periodic table, we can find the amount of protons and the amount of electrons, as well as finding the amount of neutrons. However, if you remember in that first key concept slide, I spoke of two other pieces of information we haven't yet spoken about, the number of electron shells and the number of valence electrons. Now, both of these two pieces of information can be found using the periodic table, and more specifically, it depends on where the element is placed in the periodic table. So let's locate hydrogen. There it is. Hydrogen is located on the first row of the periodic table. Therefore, it will have one electron shell. If we were to take a look at sodium, for example, which is located in the third row, it would have 3 electron shells on which to place its 11 electrons. Magnesium, also located on that third row, would still have 3 electron shells to place its 12 electrons. Hydrogen is also located in the first column, and that means it has 1 valence electron, or the amount of electrons on the last of the electron shells. To recap all of this mini lesson, we're going to choose a different element completely. We're going to choose silicon. So first thing we have to do, we have to find it in the periodic table. Now, if we take a look at the information box given to us, we will find the atomic number, and this automatically means that I should have 14 protons, 14 electrons. If I'm looking for the number of neutrons, I'm going to take the atomic mass minus the atomic number, so that's 28.09 minus 14, round that answer up to the nearest unit, and that'll give me my number of neutrons, in this case 14. To find the valence electrons and the electron shell depends on where silicon is placed. Silicon is on the third row of the periodic table, so it has 3 electron shells, and it is located on the fourth grouping or fourth column of the periodic table, so it will have 4 valence electrons. The reason why I say 4 here is because I'm going to skip over the transitional metals, and I'll show which ones are the transitional metals in the next mini lesson. This is how silicon would look if we were to do an animation of it. So let's just check with the animation, make sure we have all the right information. So first off, oops, sorry about that. First off, the 14, that atomic number. That means we should have 14 protons, shown here by the red circles, and 14 blue dots or electrons around the nucleus. The atomic mass minus the atomic number will tell us how many neutrons there are in the nucleus, shown here by the white spheres. Now I know you can't see 14 white spheres in that nucleus, but please keep in mind it is a 3-dimensional model, so they are there, although we can't necessarily see all of them. We also know, based on its location, that silicon is located in the third row of the periodic table, so therefore it's going to have 3 electron rings around the nucleus, that you can see here in the animation, and it is in the fourth column, And on that last ring, we're going to have 4 electrons. So that 4th column is showing us we have 4 valence electrons, or the amount of electrons on that last ring furthest from the nucleus. To review, because right now we are finished this first mini lesson, here again are the key concepts. The periodic table regroups all the known elements. And even the most basic periodic table, you can find the number of protons, number of neutrons, the number of electrons, and, depending on where the element is found in the periodic table, the number of electron shells and the number of valence electrons. Well, thank you very much for listening to the first mini lesson. Have a great day.